want to tell you I have had a great granniopteryx idea for cutting pollution. No, really, hang on a minute. It's an amazing idea. I'm telling you, it's absolutely foolproof. Well, yeah, it's full of fools, but yeah, hang on to that. You might remember the story a few weeks ago of a student videoing herself as she threw a bucket of excrement over a memorial to a local hero called Captain Tom. And then she posted an hysterical demand that people stop flying around the world in private jets, didn't she? Because that would save the planet. Okay, you might remember that. Well, just a minute. Hold that thought while I tell you who I am. I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I let you know when I've uploaded a video on Twitter, Gab and Parler, and I do urge you to subscribe to me at Granniopteryx on one of those platforms because YouTube is somewhat uninformative about my new uploads. Also, you can help my channel a great deal by liking, by sharing and by subscribing. And again, if you're on YouTube, check that your subscription is still active. Okay, you can also help me financially. Buy me a coffee or one of the links below. Right, now back to my splendid idea for how to cut pollution. That kid had entirely the wrong attitude if she thought that throwing doo-doo over a not very good but life-size bit of metalwork would stop Prince Harry from travelling in a private jet. I mean, that was obviously a non-starter. Mind you, that's not the only thing that she's mistaken about, but yeah, I'm not going to get into that. Now I'm going to tell you that she had the right idea. She was just applying it in the wrong way. After all, the COVID lockdowns in China, the access restrictions on the unvaccinated in Austria, the traffic zoning in Oxford, they all have the same purpose, don't they? They're all there to restrict people's movements from one place to another. Well, as that student had it, it wasn't a restriction on all movements. After all, she was throwing bowel movements at Captain Tom, wasn't she? But apart from that, the whole picture seems to be that governments, under the guise of clean air or COVID or congestion or, anything, there's somehow a feeling abroad that people shouldn't be moving from place to place. With the exception of undocumented migrants, of course, they're in a completely different category. Now, the problem with restrictive legislation is that people tend to kick against such laws. They get offended, they get annoyed. No, in order to get compliance, this has to come from the people themselves. So, here comes the big idea. And as I say, it's just brilliant, although I say so myself. Make people uncomfortable about travelling. Make them afraid of it. Now, you've seen my videos about the collection of unconventional people running Virgin Atlantic right now. And I remark that when you're 35,000 feet up, or however far up you are, packed like sardines into a tin can, you want to be reassured that everything is safe and super ordinary, don't you? Then some person of indeterminate gender in a red skirt wiggles his way down the aisle and, well, you may not find that all that much reassuring. You may even decide that perhaps your next trip will be on a plane run by the more conventional British Airways. Then you read that BA are now allowing their male staff to wear makeup. Do you find that reassuring? Well, perhaps you might decide, not strictly consciously, but the next holiday you don't really want to fly anywhere, and you're not going to have a holiday in Florida this year, but maybe a car trip to Cornwall, or even a walking tour of Cumbria. Nice place, Cumbria. So there you have it. Jet fuel problem solved. and with no need for legislation, because it will all come from the people themselves. Now, the Just Stop Oil people might say that isn't enough. After all, they sit in motorways where people are driving their cars, and they're obviously worried about people moving around in any sort of conveyance on hydrocarbons. But what I say is, give it time. After a while, when people are afraid to go out at all because of roving bands of migrants taking over their villages and towns, the problem will be solved altogether. You see, that's the great idea. Just make people afraid to go out. Look, isn't there an expression, an Englishman's home is his castle? If I were you, I'd put my money into any company that constructs moats. Give it a few years, you'll make a fortune. So while you're thinking about that, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.